Hello and welcome to Podcrushed. I'm joined by only one of my co-hosts right now because
And it's not the one you think.
No. So quick. I actually, so as much as you might feel left out, I think in terms of who I've been joined by, only these like kind of only two of us. I think it's sort of half and half. I think you and Nava have been absent, a handful of times each.
I think I was absent more recently, so that's on my mind.
Yeah, you're just absent-minded.
Yeah. I know when you kind of said that I had no experience being a nerd or something like that.
Oh, and did you feel like you were such a nerd?
No, not at all. But I was like,
and emphatic, no.
I shared this. I said it, but I felt like my reaction is exactly that. Like, no, I definitely wasn't a nerd. But that comes off as like I was super cool.
Very cool. No, you feel like a nerd is meant to be smart. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And you don't feel smart.
Yeah. Let's not get into that. Moving on.
Why don't we just get to our guest? I don't see why not.
Let's do it.
Nobody wants to listen to us two without Nava just trying to generate chemistry. We can't do that. We need the linchpin. Today we have the phenomenal Simu Liu, actor, author as well. So you're gonna know him, of course, from things like Kim's Convenience, Barbie, and the giant Marvel film Shang-Chi, and the 10 Rings. But he's got a book out. That's not what he's here to promote. But I just want to say, great book. Such a good book. Such an unexpected joy. In just a handful of years, Simu went from accountant to an extra on a Guillermo del Toro film, then to basically a global movie star. Mm-hmm. He was named one of Time's 100 most influential people. But before that, he has a very, very, very cool story. We start actually, rather than at 12 years old, we start at 4, because that's when he moved from his hometown in China to Ontario, Canada. Right now, he's here to promote his new series, The Copenhagen Test, about an intelligence agent who is compromised and must prove his intelligence. No, must prove his allegiance, to the system, to the man. It is a real nail biter. I did watch some of it this week. Looking forward to finishing it. Today, we got into Simu's unlikely path to Hollywood. You'll love it right after this break. Welcome to Podcrushed. We're your hosts. I'm Penn.
I'm Nava.
And I'm Sophie.
And I think we could have been your middle school besties.
Comparing pens. Yeah, I liked comparing pens. That was just a thing I like to do, okay?
We do start at 12 years old. That is what we do. Who you are at 12, right? Okay. Like there's just some serious stuff, like where you were born and the fact that you didn't meet your parents, technically speaking, until later. I mean, so there's a lot about that, you coming to Canada. So if you wouldn't mind, we'd love, at least for our listeners, for you to situate us with this major life transition you had at about 4 years old.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're just going to do the whole shebang.
I guess so. Yeah, if you could summarize your book, just give us a quick notes.
Okay. Summarize 100,000. Okay, yeah. Basically, I was born in China, and my parents, shortly after giving birth to me, they knew that they were going to try to pursue an opportunity, kind of to go to America/Canada. They didn't know what it was going to be yet. But when I was about 6 months old, my dad got a scholarship at Arizona State University. So he left. And then I was with my mom and my grandparents, and he stayed at ASU for 1 semester. And they said, okay, we'd love to have you back, but we can only really cover your tuition. We can't really cover your living expenses. And then there was this university out of Kingston, Ontario, Queens, that did better, basically. And so, him not having really any money to his name at the time, that decision was kind of made for him. So he moved to Canada, and that's why I grew up Canadian, and that's why I had to spend tens of thousands of dollars in legal bills in order to get an O1 visa in order to be able to work down here. But no, it was the best. It was the best move for us at the time. And then my mom joined him kind of shortly thereafter. So I grew up with my yeye and my nanai, who are my grandparents. And we spent every day together until I was 4.5. And one day in January, my dad showed up at the door. Although I didn't know that he was my dad at the time, he was just like a strange man. And he told me that he was going to take me away to Canada to this new life. And and it sounds, really like warm and fuzzy, but really at the time, like he was a complete and total stranger. And I loved my grandparents like more than anything. So it was actually quite hard to kind of, just like enter an entirely new family unit. But yeah, we immigrated to Canada. I grew up, and then, I actually at about 12 years old, I got into this like really kind of prestigious, I guess you could call it like a prep school in Toronto. It's called UTS, University of Toronto Schools. And that's where my adolescent journey began.
When you were, do you recall like the sense memories? I mean, early, for all of us, no matter what happened, 4 or 5 years old, where I think your memories start to come online.
Yeah, for sure. You start to get lucid.
Yeah, I'm curious. The way you speak of your grandparents, it's like it's so palpable and felt, your love for them. I mean, there's even a point where you speak about how you would give anything to sort of have them back, and I thought, I was pretty sure I was hearing you become very emotional in your audiobook reading, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Would they tell you stories of your parents? Were your parents like, you even say that meeting your dad was almost like meeting a celebrity, or like you've heard about this man.
Yeah.
He asked you who do you know who I am, and you gave his full name.
Yeah,
which is like I'm meeting Johnny Depp.
Yes,
maybe
you were
not the
Johnny
best
Depp.
reference to make now, but like I'm curious, do you remember what they told you about them?
Yeah, I guess if you can imagine this like weird, almost like this like prophecy.
Yeah.
That like you were being, it's like you're being inundated with this from birth. Basically, like your dad is gonna. It's like you're the Messiah. Like your dad is gonna come and take you to this like new place, and then in this new place, everything is better, and the sky is blue, and the whatever, and it's utopia, and of course it's not true, but like that's the kind of legend that they sell you. Yeah, it's just Canada. I mean, it's a pretty good country, but every country has its problems. But yeah, it was kind of this narrative that had kind of been etched into my brain, and I had spoken to him on the phone, but it's just a voice. So you have nothing, like you have no ability to become attached to this person. And then he shows up right in front of you and you're like, that's not, it's like, well, whoever he was in that moment, he couldn't possibly have met that like amount of prophetic expectation that had been placed on him,
Yeah. So cut to you, I mean, we'll probably go in and out of other parts of your childhood.
Sure.
But so as we typically start snapshot at 12 years old, I'm curious, how has that evolved? You do go into it in great detail in your book. And I mean, as a co-host of this show, I was really appreciative of how much you get into not only your own adolescence, but actually the childhood and adolescence of your parents. And I'm curious how much that, I actually wished, I wish every guest had a memoir where they talked about their parents' origin story, because it's so
Totally.
informative, and it's I guess I'm curious about, so first of all, just day-to-day life then, right? Like just day-to-day life, what was it like at this new prep school? And then I'm also curious, how aware at this age were you of the specificity of their stories? Did you only learn about that later? Like, I know you felt the burden as you kind of described, so please just give us a whole, you do the storytelling.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, 12, is about the time that we were all kind of starting to develop hormones. And I was, I think up until that point, very much living the life that my parents set out for me. And it's based on their upbringing and their values. But the long and the short of it is that their whole mechanism for upward social mobility was academic achievement, because they didn't understand the culture here. It wasn't like they really spoke the language, they weren't native speakers. And so whatever success that they had, and even their ability to leave their country, was predicated on this idea of like being they were both engineers, so being really great engineers, being really great at their job, testing really well. And so I feel like so many immigrant parents, like you hear this over and over again, like, oh, my parents told me I can only be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer when I grew up. And a lot of that is because of familiarity, right? It's because, those are the lines of work that they're familiar with, and that they know that they could provide some sort of guidance in. That there's some sort of like tangible, tactile factor to these jobs that they can understand. Whereas ephemeral things like artists and writers and things like they would just not even begin to know how to broach that. And so yeah, I would say before I really knew who I was or who I wanted to be, I was just who they wanted to be. And that was, a kid that studied hard, tested really well. And then kind of puberty rolled around, and I started to realize that I was really not cool. It was a very, very distinct feeling where I was like, why this guy Thomas McDonald with the frosted tips? I was like,
Thomas McDonald with frosted tips.
Why do all the girls that I have crushes on have crushes on Thomas McDonald? And it was this, coming of age was this like really sobering feeling for me, where I was like, wait, so none of the skills that I have are attractive skills in the like romantic marketplace? That's what you're telling me? And so and so me going to this like academic whatever prep school that I had to test into really unfortunately coincided with also a time in my life where I was desperately trying to like shirk all of that and be kind of my own person and what I thought was cool, which was like, like the OC came out when I was like 14, I think. And it was like, I wanted to be that. I wanted to be like One Tree Hill.
Isn't his name Ryan?
Ryan. Maybe a little bit of Seth. I don't know, but
just a little,
just a little sprinkle of humor in there. Yeah. One Tree Hill, star athlete. Like I was kind of like really chasing that feeling when deep down, I guess I was like, my family. I was like, oh, we're just like nerds. We're just little nerdy people.
Right.
Just on this topic of being nerds, a family of nerds.
Sophie can relate.
I mean, maybe the uncoolness, but not the smarts. But you talk about this in the book, like you come from parents who seem like exceptionally brilliant and driven, and that you talk really honestly about the tension.
And just for clarity, they are objectively exceptional in the sense that they belong to these very small groups. You know what I mean? Like, so sorry, keep going.
And you talk really honestly about the tension that kind of caused between maybe in particular you and your mom in your like adolescence. And I was curious because...
You do say she's the bane of your existence. You say she's the bane of your adolescence.
Wow, nice. I did not expect this level of research, can I just say? This is...
We're one of the best.
The three of us just co-wrote a book. And one of the things that I really struggled with was this feeling of like loyalty to my family and like not being able to be like totally...
Candid,
maybe not to tell the stories that I might have told because like out of like honoring them. And I know, your family's Chinese. I spent 5 years of middle school and high school in China, and like filial piety, respect to your parents is such a like cornerstone of the culture. So I'm just curious, because I know you interviewed them too, so they must have had some idea about like what you were writing, read the book. I was curious how that played out. What was their reaction? What were the conversations like between you and them around that?
Yeah, for sure. When this kind of book project even came around, I was actually I was Facebook messaged by like a literary agent in 2019. I would almost say like before I even had Shang-Chi, I was just this like little Canadian micro celebrity because I was on this show called Kim's Convenience that did quite well. But I'd written this column for this Canadian magazine, and then so this agent, her name is Jackie Kaiser, reached out on Facebook, and which no one does anymore, and and was like, "Hey,
is this real?"
I know, totally. Yeah, no, you want to write a book? Just send me a check for $5,000,
$10,000.
Yeah, $10,000, and I promise I'll write you a book. She reached out, and I very cautiously responded, but it kind of became very clear that she was very legitimate, and was like, "Have you ever wanted to tell your story?" And it was a big thing. I was like 28, 29 years old, and I was like, well, first of all, I'm a fetus, so I don't know what really I have to offer to the world in terms of something that they would want to read in a book. And then I was thinking about it. So I initially had said no, and then I was thinking about it, and I was like on a call with my parents, and they were telling me about something about their childhood, and I was just like, I remember thinking like, to your point, Penn, like, wow, this is pretty incredible stuff. Like, someone should write a book about that.
Yeah.
Wait, I should write a book about that. Because really everything that I've accomplished and every opportunity that I've been given and that I'm able to have is because of them. And so that kind of was the mechanism that started it all. And then I typed up this proposal, kind of half involving my parents, half me. And then we sold the book, which is really awesome. And then, of course, throughout the writing process, to your point, Sophie, I started to like get into this territory of like this adolescent, my relationship with my parents in my adolescence, which was kind of our most kind of acrimonious time. Just because so many of the things that we wanted were like in direct conflict with each other. So yeah, there was a discussion of like, how honest do we want to be? And there was an element of like, I was trying to undo this idea of being a good Asian son and being, and honoring the filial piety, because I think mental health is quite a big issue in our community. And I think part of the reason why that is because nobody wants to talk about their problems. Yeah. And I think presenting face or presenting the image of, of a perfect family and of perfection is so ingrained into a lot of our DNA. I don't want to speak for everybody, but certainly, for my parents, that there was no transparency and there was no ability to be vulnerable with each other. And so, yeah, I think I wanted to be honest about my experience, not because I hate my parents and I want them to suffer, and I want to air out a dirty laundry, but I knew that there were people out there like me who are struggling to make sense of their lives and struggling to make sense of what they wanted out of their lives, and that this would be valuable for people like that to read in a book and to say, there are people out there who are going through this, and I'm not alone. And I think that was more valuable to me than maybe this perceived idea of like saving face for not only my parents but for me too. I hope I was equally honest about how much of a shithead I was as a kid.
Yes. No, I don't know if I articulated this when I asked the question, but I was inspired and moved by the honesty. I thought it was really refreshing. It wasn't. Yeah, hopefully that wasn't.
Thank you so much. I want to go back to you spent 5 years in China?
Nava was in China too. I don't know how long. Nava was.
I spent 2 years. Yeah, I was there for 2 years. As an adult, though, I was teaching at Tsinghua University for a couple of years. Yeah.
Wow. That's the best. That's the Harvard.
Yeah. It's an amazing school. I met the coolest people in China.
Yeah. Nava's a top Chinese scholar. I don't know if you're aware, but
she's about to break into Chinese.
Penn, are you saying that you're the only person in this entire who can't speak Chinese? So if I was to say 我们都会说中文，但是他就是唯一的不会说中文的。
Yeah, what a loser.
I'm pretty sure what you said is next to the OC and the other show you mentioned.
Yeah, that's true. Gossip Girl number 1.
Yeah. It said Dan Humphrey is tattooed on my chest.
Yeah. In Chinese though, his Chinese name.
Yeah. Mandarin.
What would his Chinese name be?
I have no idea.
I want to know. Yeah. If you have got travel coming up, visiting family, heading abroad, maybe you've got a dream trip for the new year, imagine feeling confident greeting people where you're going in their own language. Rosetta Stone makes it easy to feel more connected and have a richer experience wherever you go. With 30 years of experience, millions of users, and 25 languages to choose from, including Spanish, French, German, Japanese, and more, Rosetta Stone is the go-to tool for real language growth. Rosetta Stone fits your lifestyle with flexible on-the-go learning. You're able to access lessons from your desktop or mobile app, whether you have 5 minutes or an hour. For me, my 16, nearly 17-year-old, he is now in, I think, Spanish 3. He could speak probably nearly fluent Spanish if he had someone in the house to speak Spanish with. I really want to be able to deliver on this. I would love to have, deep conversations in English, and maybe we can order food in Spanish. That's where we'll have to start, naturally. Rosetta Stone has been really helpful for doing just that. I love how their true accent feature gives real-time feedback on my pronunciation. It's helping me feel a little bit more confident, sometimes a lot more confident in my Spanish-speaking abilities. Don't wait. Unlock your language learning potential now. Podcrushed listeners can grab Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. That's unlimited access to 25 language courses for life. Visit rosettastone.com/podcrushed to get started and claim your 50% off today. Give a gift that keeps giving. Go to rosettastone.com/podcrushed and start learning. Okay, I'll be honest with you. There are some things where there's areas in my life where I still find it hard to truly adult, go full adult mode. I may have 4 children. I may never feel like an adult. We'll see. One of the things that I never do is set up a plan when I'm traveling to a foreign country so that I have service when I land. It's comical. It's terrible. It's really frustrating. And to be honest, the last several years, considering how many children I have, the only time I travel is for work, for maybe say an event, and I land and I've really got to find people, and I often discover that I cannot. And, if it weren't for having an airport greeter and a driver pick me up, I'd be completely lost. I would be in total panic mode. Now, for those of us who, might not have a greeter at the airport or a driver hired by the company that's flying you to another country, what you got to do is you got to pack the internet with you, right? This is exactly what Airalo lets you do. Your phone probably supports eSIMs, which is where Airalo comes in. Before you even leave, just download the Airalo app, pick your destination eSIM, choose your plan length and data amount, install it, and boom, you're connected the moment you land. It's really that easy. No surprise roaming fees, no sketchy airport kiosks, no desperate hunt for public Wi-Fi. Just pay for the data you need and top up anytime. You can stream, scroll, text, navigate, and even video call home without stressing about your bill. Airalo works in over 200 destinations and is trusted by over 20 million travelers. Honestly, I just wish I'd known about it sooner. So do what I do. If you have an international trip coming up, download the Airalo app now or visit airalo.com. That's AIRALO.com and use code PODCRUSHED for 15% off your first eSIM. Terms apply.
Simu, could you tell us a little bit more about your relationship with your grandparents? What was it? I'm curious what it was like after you left, like when you went to Canada. Were you able to see them? Did you talk to them on the phone much? You talk about this really sweet and sad moment in the book where your parents send a video back to your grandparents thinking it's going to be kind of like a funny, you're getting scolded in the video and they think it's going to be funny, but your grandparents were saddened by it because they had this like really affectionate, loving relationship with you. Also, that makes sense because you were 0 to 4. It's a different,
It's a different relationship.
If you hit 5, you got to tell these kids what's going on.
Yeah, no, completely.
I have a 5-year-old, just for reference.
You gotta lay the hammer down. Now, I mean, I think there's something to be said too for my parents of like, they obviously weren't able to be with me for the first 5 years of my life. And so it was something they always dreamt about. And so that reunion of the family was very much a happy ending for them. And if it were a movie, and I think I say this in the book, but if it were a movie, it would, the music would swell and we'd zoom out and we'd be like, oh, the family's finally together. They lived happily ever after. But the reality of that situation was that they were completely unprepared
Totally.
Yeah.
to have a right? Like they completely missed the formative years, which means like the diapers, the cry, the sleep schedule, the crying, and then all of a sudden
attachment too. It's just even
and
at like
the
a
physical
biological level,
attachment.
you're just so much love and attachment is built up.
And like your own crash course as a parent. I have a 2-year-old and I was trying to imagine like, what would it be like if I was just dropped in at 4?
Yeah.
It's a like totally
Crazy.
different experience. Like I'm building up this attachment to her.
Yeah, I like to say that I was adopted by my biological parents in a weird way.
That's actually
That is what happened to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was this like instant family in a lot of ways. Whereas with my yaya and my nanai, I think also because they were older, like just were less. They were just kinder and wiser and more patient. And so, I mean, I remember I slept in the same bed with them every day. I don't know if that's like weird nowadays, but
so sweet.
I slept in between them with my yaya on one side and my nana on the other.
So
And I mean, it was the best. I literally have nothing but good memories. And so when they were like trying to sell me on this idea of a better future, it was always like, I don't see it, and then I was able to keep in contact with them. They were able to come over to Canada for a short period of time. And then when I was about 10 or 11, we started to go back. So we were able to go back during my summer breaks, and I would spend, like probably half my summer in China, and I would be with them. And I just like remember the first time I came back. And then it was, I'd spent the 4 weeks and it was great. And then, when it was time to go, I was like bawling my eyes out and like begging to stay, Cause also, so I mean, I think things with my parents and I, again, like, I think we started off okay, but I think it was just very quickly, like, I just realized it was such a different familial dynamic, and I was missing a lot of the warmth and a lot of the affection. My parents weren't affectionate people. And, it was really jarring for me, I think, growing up in that environment suddenly when I kind of, the parental figures that I knew for most of my life were at least, just beings of like just limitless love.
Simu, then you add to that the fact that you're like assimilating to a new country. Your parents are assimilating to a new culture. And it sounds like there was a pretty strong element of like xenophobia and discrimination. So that's just like so much to metabolize as a young person. And I'm curious how it impacted your feeling of being Chinese, particularly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it was like no one was like, like throwing rocks at us or pitchforks or anything like that. But I think you would feel, I feel like a lot of the prejudice that I felt and that we feel as a community, the flavor of it for us is not overt. It's not direct. It's kind of this like always under the surface thing, which kind of, I'm not going to say it makes it worse, but it definitely makes it harder to call out. It makes it harder to, makes it very easy for people to say, whoa, hey, what do you mean? I wasn't, but it's there. And growing up, I would say that the easiest way that I saw it was just the way that I saw the way that the world treated my parents once they realized that they weren't native English speakers. Like there just became, it was just like a gloss over. It was just like a kind of impatience. And I think we've all kind of felt that at some point in our lives too. Like I've even caught myself feeling that at times about, whatever people that I encounter in life. And it is like, I always have to catch myself and like remind myself, like, dude, whoever this person is, they came from another country to be here. And there's always a pretty incredible story about how that came to be. And so I've just got to be a little bit more empathetic about it. But yeah, it's a lot of that. Just like things that you couldn't necessarily say this was an overt act of discrimination, but it's there. You feel it. You feel the vibe of it. And that was the flavor of a lot of it. And what that kind of resulted in was just this like, I guess this like feeling of shame. This feeling of shame of being different, which I think we all have to some degree when we're young, I just feel like, especially if you grew up in the 90s, it's like, no, whatever made you different got bullied out of you. I think that was just the name of the game back then. And for me, it was being Chinese, and down to the lunches that I would bring to school and things like that. So yeah, I was like, don't give me the ethnic stuff. I just want Lunchables. Like, please stop cooking for me.
Lunchables is like the worst food.
I totally relate to that.
Objectively so bad.
It's a shame.
And it's all I wanted.
Yeah.
Not my parents' lovely cooking
I really like the point you made, Simu, about how each of us, like in our daily lives or at some point will encounter someone from another country who's maybe struggling in some way. And like we have a choice about the way to treat them. I just want to share, I lived in China for 2 years in my 20s. And I can imagine that not everyone of every nationality has this experience in China. But the experience that I had was like being met with intense curiosity and like hospitality. Like I can't even think of one person I met in China who I didn't have honestly that kind of a pleasant experience with, where it was like, this is my country and I want you to love it. Can I like show you around? Like what of China would you like to experience? And like, that's a way that you can meet new people. Like, it doesn't have to be with like suspicion or wishing them ill or like, like a distance. And I've lived in many countries and I've only experienced that in China, where like people want you to be like welcome and like are hospitable and are curious about you. It was so amazing to experience that.
Oh man, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. Ironically, I don't feel like I get that in China because they're like, oh, who are you?
They're not as curious about you.
No, they're like, I think there's a sense of like, they're like, oh, he grew, like he's one of us, but he didn't grow up with. And then the moment I open my mouth, I give away that I'm not a native Mandarin speaker anymore. And so it's there's always this like, oh, he doesn't even speak Chinese.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Were there moments in your youth where you felt like unexpectedly proud of being Chinese or Canadian Chinese?
Unexpectedly proud.
Or expectedly.
Yeah.
Or expect.
Either just
like it sounds like, I mean,
pride.
the food, like real Chinese food is amazing. When you just started to describe the difference between bastardized Chinese food and real Chinese food, like a simple steamed rice with some stir-fried vegetables and braised meat. I was like, I literally started typing in like, where can I find good Chinese food in Austin?
It's so true, though.
It's so good.
This is so pitiful. I did go to, I was in Beijing for like very, very, like 36 hours or less.
Oh man.
But it was the first time I had what I would say is authentic Chinese food. And I was like, this is phenomenal.
Yeah.
This is, but the bastardized version in America has always been one of the, it's like, it's not my favorite. It's like not what I'll ever go to.
Yeah.
It's amazing the difference.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the food wasn't that for you necessarily because you were wanting Lunchables, but were there other aspects that?
Yeah, I feel like all of the like pride that I felt about my culture has been almost like after the fact. Like I really hit it in my like mid to late 20s looking back, because I think that's the moment that you like you spend so long trying to run away from where you came from, whether it's, and for some, I think it's their culture or the things that made them different, for me. And my parents, by the way, had something to do with all that too, because it was like I had associated, them with the culture and also with like, in me making the decision to pursue acting for the first time as a, 23-year-old adult with no connections and no training, they were like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And they had a pretty fair point, but I had to run away from all of it, and so, the book and writing the book and interviewing them, it kind of came at a point in my life where I was ready to embrace it again. And then it was like, oh no, our food is pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. Our culture, it, not without its flaws, but it's something I'm very proud of, and it's mine, which is really, really cool. But yeah, at the time, I would say I was probably doing everything that I could to like, I guess you could say to like whitewash myself. There was a term in our community even called a banana, which was like yellow on the outside but white on the inside. That was like almost weirdly aspirational. Like, I knew kids that would go around being like, yeah, I'm basically like a banana. Like, it was almost a point of pride. Like, yeah, I don't even speak Chinese anymore. Like, that's how white I became. And and there's something really sad about that.
that all is relatable. My family moved to Puerto Rico when I was really little, and my dad's American, my mom's Persian. So anyway, I'm relating to almost everything you're saying.
Sure,
like the food, rejecting it, like not being proud until I was older and all of that. But I am going to pivot, which is earlier you talked about like having all of these skills that didn't apply in the romantic arena. And that made me curious, like what were your first experiences around like crushes, infatuations? How did you navigate all that?
Yeah, poorly. I guess, and I'm not saying that like swag or like Riz is hereditary or is somehow, but I do think that if you have like, kind of cool, charming parents who, who did well for themselves back in the day, it certainly helps you. And, and for me, I mean, I definitely, at least none of it translated. So it didn't make it quite past the cultural gap. Yeah, no, the Riz was somehow lost in translation. So
you do talk about your, I think your mother's father, you said, was quite, he had some Riz. Is that true?
My dad's father, my dad's father, he I think like he was like courting my grandmother at some point and like made some grand romantic gesture, I think. I think he was like his family like owned a factory or something, and then he really liked my grandma, and she was, like really big on education, and she was like, I want to go to college, and I don't think I can be with you unless you go to college. And he like upended his whole life, and he became a professor. He taught chemistry in a university. Crazy. Wow. So I mean,
you come from a long line of professors. Well, it's not professors, but a lot of academics.
Yeah, academics, like heavy STEM academic people. Yeah.
Yeah. So no Riz. How did you fake it till you make it? You just kind of like let it go? Like,
I just didn't have anyone to talk to it about. And my parents were anytime I would even try to like broach a conversation, they'd be like, well, what are you doing? Like, you should be studying. Like this is not your focus right now. And so, it was, so I get into this new school, and it's tiny. There's about 100 kids in a grade. So everyone knows each other. And I'm like, I feel like puberty manifests in a lot of different ways for different people. And I'm like this very attention seeking, very like, come look at me, but like no substance. So I was like, if I'm just like loud, like that was how I internalized it. If I was just like loud and flashy, then maybe that's what would attract the girls, which of course didn't work. But, I will say we did have like a number of dances every year, like every school does, but like we had like Halloween dance, holiday dance, like Valentine's Day, semi-formal or whatever, and then Easter dance. And so those are the like little moments where I was like, that's how I'm going to get them. And it was the slow dances, but it was also the like build up to each dance, right? Because then as soon as one dance finished, it became about like, who am I going to ask to the next one? And it just enacted this whole 2-month plan to like become friends with, a girl enough to be like, hey, do you maybe want to go to this dumb thing together?
It's very charming.
Just so that we could get the, the like... I do this because I was a small kid, like definitely taller than
me. Do you remember a particular slow dance to a particular song? Like when you said slow dance at a school dance, the first song that came to my mind was "Hey There, Delilah." I specifically remember dancing with Enzo to that song.
You sound so young when you say
that. That is really young. That's a college. Yeah, that's a college song for me. No, it's Casey and JoJo, All My Life.
That's it. That's the one.
Penn and I are the same generation.
You guys are.
It was all my life. It was This I Promise You, NSYNC, Shape of My Heart.
Those are all amazing.
But All My Life was like the coolest one.
Simu, how do we transition how do we go from young man, like line of academics to where you are today? Can you kind of walk us through your journey? I understand there was like a brief period as an accountant. Can you sort of walk us through your journey from where you were then to sort of your career now?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think over the course of my time at this like very academic prep school where everyone, part of the reason why my parents were willing to spend the money to send me was because they were kind of known as this like doctor factory that like out of 100 kids that would graduate, like 20 would wind up going to pre-med, like 20 would go pre-law. And so it was like the school to go to for immigrant families. And so that was their hope. And I think it was just becoming like increasingly obvious that I wasn't that. Like I really, and to their, to their defense, I think I really set them up for it. Like I think over the first like few years, like in primary school, I was like academically stellar. And so, by their metrics, they're like, oh yeah, he's doing what he should be doing based on our long line of very, very smart people,
Brilliance.
Brilliance, exactly. Of expected brilliance. And
people who literally toiled in the fields.
Yes, toiled
and made fought their way into the one spot in a reopened university.
Yes, yep.
Really
beat every
incredible.
social and economic odd.
Yes.
I mean,
in
it's
order
really
for this
phenomenal.
kid
Yeah.
to fuck it all up because he wanted to take a girl to the dance. Yeah, that's
Who is this Casey and JoJo? Where are they?
Who is? Damn it. So that was kind of it was a rude awakening for them, unfortunately, and it was when we fought definitely the most. But going to business school was kind of this like compromise, this unspoken compromise that we had, because I knew I wasn't going to be an engineer and I knew I wasn't going to be a doctor.
What did you want? What did you feel?
This is really tough. I don't think I ever like really thought critically about my future in a way, which is weird. But I think it was also because my growing up in that kind of household with those kind of expectations, it was very difficult to think for yourself. I think I don't want to put the blame. I don't want to blame my parents necessarily, but it was hard for me to keep in touch with like who I was, what I wanted, because it was like these things never mattered. So how could what reference points did I even have other than episodes of the OC that I was watching, And so I wanted to be the captain of my basketball team. I wanted to play sports and be a jock. I didn't necessarily know what I wanted beyond that. And, maybe business school was like, it was a gateway to this like maybe kind of life that felt like it was aspirational, right? Like you put on a suit and tie to go to work every day. You maybe have a nice apartment in the city. Like that felt like, hopefully you made a lot of money. So at that point I'm maybe being like really hard on myself, but I think that's all I really knew. And I was like, okay, that's enough. Because at that point we had zero conversations about what I wanted. We had zero conversations about passion, about interest, anything like that. So I was like, yeah, okay, business school, sure. And I was a shitty student in high school, and I was a shitty student in college and business school, and then somehow, found my way to an accounting job. And then I spent 9 months as an accountant. It was the worst 9 months of my life. I was truly like soul-sucking and terrible, and I apologize for anyone who's listening who is an accountant.
That's exactly what I imagine accounting is.
Right. And the thing is, I've met lots of happy accountants out there, and I want, like, it makes me so happy. Yeah, they're out there somewhere.
My sister is an accountant.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
My sister's an accountant, and she's
she love
really
it?
good at it. Yeah, hi, Jenna. I think she's currently, her job is like so much work that she's going through a rough patch. But in general, she loves it. She's really good at math.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So there are people who love it. Yeah.
There's specific personality traits that will excel in that kind of line of work, and I had none of those traits, and so I was going
I
to
hear
work.
you
every
need
day.
Riz mostly to be an accountant.
It's really a Riz heavy job, which is weird. Yeah, it's really weird how much Riz Yeah, it was tough. I think I had a lot of like creativity in me. I was a part of my hip hop dance team, my competitive hip hop dance team in college, and that was kind of
In
like
college?
how
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Simu Liu, wait, that means you're like amazing at hip hop.
I'm like kind of good, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
We'll take it.
I never want to, we're our culture. It's all about humility,
shit.
but no,
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at this, which is why I really appreciated Penn your spirit tunnel dance. I was like, That man, that white boy can move.
Well,
That was nice.
there's somebody who posted in something like a there was, like a week like a weekend at Bernie's. I think Bernie might be wearing a white suit, or there was something that like a GIF or a GIF that somebody posted of Bernie like being moved around in this way that I thought looked so much like what I was doing, because I was also very embarrassed and having an out-of-body experience.
No, not at all. Not at all. But you know, it's you're a natural performer, and I think I was like that was where my performance first started to like come out, or my love of performing first started to show. And then, fast forward to, being an accountant, it's like smash cut to you're at an office and you're literally, your only job is to do this spreadsheet exactly the same way as the person last year did it. Like I mean, there is creativity is like a bad word in accounting. Like there's absolutely no room for creativity. The law is what it is. The generally accepted accounting principles are what they are. And so it was pretty terrible. And I skipped work one day to be an extra on Guillermo del Toro's movie Pacific Rim, and I got caught.
How'd you get caught?
Yeah, how did you get caught?
Who's looking out for you? What is this? The Copenhagen Test?
Yeah, this is a nice plug.
And now we segue.
No,
seriously, how did you get caught?
Well, I turned my phone off. So I should say. So it was around March, April. Our accounting busy season is like January to April. So it was kind of on the tail end of busy season. But I was not a great accountant. So they were purposefully, I was not on like a heavy duty client. And it had been maybe like a week and a half since anyone had wanted anything from me. I was just basically like doing filler work every day. I was like coming in and doing like small spreadsheets for like, I was floating. And I, this ad on Craigslist came by, and I was just like, I was on Craigslist every day because obviously I wasn't doing work. And so I like really wanted to do this. And I really wanted to be on a movie set. So I dragged my best friend, Jason, along with me. And I was like, no one's gonna call. No one's gonna ask for me. There's no way. I'm just like the perfect crime. And then I finished the day, which is a 15-hour day, freezing cold, but it was awesome. And I turned my phone on, and I had like 47 missed calls.
Oh my God.
And I was, this is insane. It was because for some reason, I think I had like done a spreadsheet incorrectly. And on that particular day, there was a senior manager that was like looking for me and couldn't find me. And so, I had a big talking to, and then I was fired probably like less than a month later. And I think that was the big kind of demarcation point in my life where I was like, oh shit, yeah, like everything in my life, all of the culmination of like all of this, this expectation that had been put on me by my parents, all of it had kind of resulted in just this epic, spectacular failure, and I was kind of at this rock bottom.
And you're about how old now? Like you said, 23?
I'm a week away from turning 23. It was April 12th, 2012, and I guess I was just like, look, none of this like living for my parents, none of this like trying to make them proud thing has worked so far. And I might as well, I didn't have this thought like all right in April 12th, it definitely came gradually, but I was
more like April 13th and 14th.
Yeah. For definitely more of a 14th kind of thing. But like, I thought like I might as well try to live life on my own terms, because this life that I had built according to somebody else's definition of success had just collapsed so spectacularly. And so, I was like, why not? Let's give it a try. And I think in the beginning, I was like, if I could just get a speaking role on a TV show, like I would be so happy. I would be able to show my kids, hey, your dad gave it a go, and that's worth something, and no one could ever take that away from me. And then, went to like a boutique Toronto talent agency and kind of lied my way, like, kind of gave him like a fake resume, and somehow was able to like get an agent and start auditioning. And I booked my first speaking role like not too long after that, which is like crazy, unheard of.
Wow.
And it would be crazy unheard of in LA, but Toronto's it's a small market. And so, and there were like very few Asian actors in that market. And it was a time where diversity was becoming more and more of a thing. And so I think I was like, I just like felt myself being pushed into audition rooms, maybe before I was even really ready, but I got a lot of chances. And yeah, I got to play Hong Kong Desk Cop #1 on a show called Nikita.
Nikita. Oh.
Nikita's great.
Yeah.
It's a good show. Yeah. I watched that show.
With Maggie Q and Shane West.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm in episode 301 for like 3 seconds.
Okay, I'll have to go back to it.
But it became, once I booked it, I mean, I knew that it wasn't going to be enough, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to stop. And I just kind of kept going after that.
I'm really curious about the what got you into that room on that first call. You know, being called up by Marvel is obviously it's like it's like being called up by the government. You know, it's like being there's only one call. There's only one, Marvel, and it happens to the biggest actors, the most talented actors of our generation. And
why this guy? What the hell?
Yeah.
If I could reverse engineer it and try to make some sense of how this all happened.
Well, like I guess I'm just curious, like because this is what I'm least familiar with is this period between you kind of breaking in and then getting there. So just give us a quick arc of like how all that happened.
Yeah, for sure. So April 12th, 2012, I get laid off from my job. I decide, hey, I'm going to give this acting thing a try. I think I booked the first speaking role on Nikita, episode 301, in like May, June. And and I'm like, oh, if at this rate, I'll be like a series regular by the end of the year. This is easy. And of course, what followed was like 4 years of just abject poverty and like living below the poverty line, and not talking to my parents because of course they had really effectively disowned me. But I was doing what I could. I would get like a commercial here. We all know that life. Like, if you book like two roles on 2 TV shows and you're in a national commercial, like you're cooking, that's a good year. Yeah. And so for 4 years, it was a lot of time off, a lot of long sleepless nights, a lot of frustration, a lot of time off. But I did everything I could. I loved being on set, and I was a more motivated person as a struggling actor than I ever was as a shitty student at prep school. So, I was like digging this new part of me. I was like, I could get behind the fact that I'm like at least like motivated and passionate about all this. 4 years go by really, really hard. But like, making incremental progress. And then in 2016, got cast in a sitcom called Kim's Convenience, which at the time was this like little Canadian show about an immigrant family. It was really, really sweet. And I didn't know it, but that show would change my life, because in our second season, first of all, it was good enough to even go more than one season, which was pretty great. And then in our second season, our rights sold to Netflix, our international rights. So all of a sudden, kind of overnight, we were like international in like over 150 countries, and just completely blew the world wide open for me. And I started going down to LA to audition, partially out of this sense of like feeling like I loved Canada, I loved where I came from, and I loved Toronto, but I did feel like there was a lack of a star system and a star making ability there. And so if I stayed, and this show played out, it went its course, and then it ended, which of course inevitably it will. All shows do, even an amazing one like Gossip Girl. Has to end someday.
But it's a reboot,
and then it gets rebooted years later.
It lives on forever.
But I knew that I would, if I didn't make moves, I would be back at square one, and I would be auditioning for those commercials and for those like little day player roles again, because that's how the Toronto system worked. And so if I wanted a shot at like, just getting to actually make something of myself, I had to go to LA. And so I started auditioning. I would shoot the show during the summers, then I would like hop over to LA for the pilot seasons and whatever other time I could. And I did that for a number of years until 2019, when I had a manager in LA at this point, who I'd cold emailed and had just like, I'd never really met. But he was like, hey, Marvel's, Black Panther was super successful. Crazy Rich Asians were super successful. Diversity is in right now. And Marvel is fast tracking this Shang-Chi movie. And I was like, great, who's Shang-Chi? I have no idea who that is. And I read comic books. I'm like, who is that? But sure enough, I got to send in a tape. And of course, it's one of those things where we've made so many tapes over the course of our career, so many go into the ether, so many get forgotten, but for whatever reason, they were like, oh, the director saw the tape and he really liked it. So, would you be willing to fly down to LA to meet him? And that was about June of 2019. And then I was cast in July. So
that's crazy.
Wow.
That's like a meteoric rise.
That is
meteoric.
I mean, no, it really because because of the way it's done, I what I was realizing as I was learning about your arc, I was like, I just kind of assumed that you had I want to say this in a way it's constructive because it wasn't at all not even close to criticism, but it's just like I because of the way Marvel is, I just would have assumed like, oh, this guy has like a lot behind him already, and you didn't, which I think is far more impressive. It says a lot more about the fact that you, when you had this opportunity, you were like, there's so much pressure. It's not like you're being grandfathered in because of some career behind you. You're like trying to get this thing. I would think.
Oh,
but also that must have been one hell of an audition. I really want to see your self-tape.
Yeah.
You must have blown them away.
It was three stages. It was the self-tape was dummy sides because they're always so secretive about it. So I was doing scenes from Good Will Hunting.
Interesting.
And maybe trying to tone down the Bostonian accent as much as I could.
But it's hard.
It's hard. How do you like them apples? But I was curious. I asked Destin later why it was Good Will Hunting, because I also fucking love that movie. It's one of my favorites. And he was like, well, Good Will Hunting, if you think about it, Good Will Hunting is also about a man who's he's in hiding. The entire movie is trying to hide himself from, he's trying to hide from himself. He's trying to hide from the world. And he's like kind of he's running away from his traumas. And in a lot of ways, Sean is doing the same thing in Shang-Chi. So I did scenes from Good Will Hunting. And then in the second audition, I think, were scenes from the movie. But at some point, I mean, it all really it's such a blur in my mind. But I think at some point I remember physically throwing the pages because he was like, let's just try improvising. So I threw the pages and we were improvising with each other. It was like something special happened in that callback that I think, and you would have to ask Destin what he thinks, but I think that won me the job. It was something about the state of play that we entered into, something that's special and doesn't happen in most audition rooms, And then the screen test, I think I did fine, but I think I think the callback was really what won him over.
Wow.
And then I mean, I hear your point about the not having that much behind me, but then and then to be fair, it's not a lot of Asian actors did. And then when you narrow down the parameters of what you were looking for, which is someone in their maybe mid to late 20s, who is specifically Chinese, because Shang-Chi is a very specific Chinese character. There was, I mean, I think the list was this long.
How was that screen test? I would think, I mean, I feel like for anybody, it doesn't matter even if you're Robert Downey Jr. I think a screen test for Marvel is probably quite nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I was shitting my pants. No, that's as crazy as it gets in terms of stakes. I just remember I'm such a nerd. I was playing I played the Avengers Endgame, the score.
Oh, wow.
I was listening to it in my ear pods the entire flight over. It was the screen test was in Brooklyn, and I remember I had to get up at 5:30 in the morning to fly in. But yeah, it was the most nervous I've ever been in my entire life. I would say that's number one. Hosting SNL was probably number two.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But of course, by then, I mean, I already had the job then, so it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, you talk about winner takes all. Right? There is no second place in that. You either get it and your life is changed forever, or you don't. And, you know, you go back to what, you know, and I didn't have a bad life, but it was like, you go back to, you know, being on a sitcom and trying to make something work.
Were your parents excited? Like, how did they respond to you representing the first ever Chinese superhero?
Yeah, I think they didn't really realize how big it was until like Chinese social media started to report it. And then they were like, oh shit, this is crazy.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. No, they're stoked. And, you know, obviously, like I was cast in 2019, so obviously the pandemic happened in 2020 and we shut down, you know, our shoot for 4 months in the middle. But over those 4 months, my dad, you know, both my parents were furloughed, and my dad actually made the decision to retire during that process because he took a package because he, you know, I think I'm an only child, so he didn't.
His son
really,
was a Marvel.
Yeah, his son was a. He's like, I think I'm set. I'm good.
I bequeathed a
I
Marvel
can read the
superhero.
writing.
So
I've done my
retire.
duty.
And at the end of the day, I think if it was something that I was directly responsible for, was giving him a little bit more time. I think that's the best that I, you know, it's like the best gift that I could ever give. So
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
glad that he did that. And my mom retired shortly after, and now they're just like living their best life. They've gotten weirdly into hiking, even though they're like fast approaching 70. Like long distance hiking, like Tour de Mont Blanc, like crazy Europe hiking. So
Wow.
I'm jumping around so much, but like that's the rhythm of their lives right now, rather than
cool.
being worried about their, you know, struggling artist son. So yeah, they're the real winners in this.
You in the book, you kind of start like, you know, I realized once I was deep in, I realized like you kind of you start your own story first by describing the moment you got the call from Kevin. I still don't know how to say this man's last name. Feige?
Kevin
Feige.
yeah.
All right. Yeah, every time I've seen it in writing so much, but you know, having never had that call myself, I can only mispronounce his name. Kevin Feige.
My parents don't know how to pronounce his name either. I think they change it every time they mention it.
Fair. You start with that call, and you know, I don't know how much you were aware of your own sort of storytelling choice here, but you know, you go from that call where, if I recall, you say you sort of weep and repeat over and over, I'm going to be a superhero. I'm going to be a superhero, and which is a beautiful, poignant moment, because right from there you then go basically to mid-century China to explore the origin stories of your parents. And I guess I'm just curious, like, you know,
why start
and now
there?
hearing about your meteoric rise, like what an event Shang-Chi was and is, you know, in your life. I guess I'm just wondering, like, you know, knowing how much training there is, how much you kind of have to focus on the immediate future. But did it also start some kind of like journey of deep personal, deep introspection, you're also you're in your late 20s at this point, is that right?
Yeah.
Which is a time
just turned 30.
Just okay, so but either way, it's a pivotal time.
Yeah.
Where you're really reflecting on like your youth, basically, because your youth is sort of coming to some kind of a close, you know. I mean, even though we're all quite young. Yeah, I'm just wondering what it was like to be doing that while also possibly having this, like, I don't know, deeply personal experience of what it all, quote unquote, means. That I do, you know, I don't think that all people who've been a Marvel superhero would have that moment necessarily.
I mean, I think the dangerous thing that actually happens when you get a call like that, and I think we've, you know, and I think, Penn, you've definitely had calls like that.
I can neither confirm nor deny if I have ever spoken to Marvel.
Maybe not Marvel specifically, but I mean, you were a part of the biggest show in the world for a very, very long time. And like, I think there's a danger because when you get a call like that, it then retroactively, it's almost like human nature to like assign meaning to all of the steps that led you there. And it's like
this all led me here. Yeah,
it all led me here, and therefore it was all the right decision. And then everyone around you is like, how did you do it? And then you're like, well, this is how I did it. When the reality of it is that actually none of, it could have been those things. It could have been none of those things. You could have been an asshole the entire time, but just for that one moment in your audition or when it counted, you showed up and then you got the part, and then all of a sudden it validated all of the asshole that you were before then, I think and in trying to make sense of my life and trying to find meaning in the prep school and the awkward and the not having any riz and trying to get riz and everything, there's something really grounding to me about making it not about myself. And thinking back to my parents and thinking back to whatever they had to overcome in the midst of Cultural Revolution China, which was just a very turbulent time in Chinese history.
It's its own novel, by the way. That opening third or whatever of your book is like, it really is like the story of your parents is this incredible story. It's pretty rich. It's pretty incredible. That should be a trilogy of films.
I agree. I think actually my one critique on myself is that I really shot myself in the foot opening with that because it's so strong. And then
now we're going to Mississauga.
And then you're in Mississauga, Ontario, and you're like, who read this? What is this?
No, it should be a film. It should be a film or a series. You've got to somehow
IP
figure that out.
You already own it.
I mean, it is a pretty spectacular, just aesthetic and moment in history that I feel like not a lot of people here know about. And also, I just want to validate your the enterprise I'm sure you went on. I guess the reason I even asked the question that way is because it's like I'm not an idiot. There are things I read about. I gotta say, I was realizing as an American, I know like virtually nothing about Chinese history. I know like very, very little. And that's, there's a lot of reasons for that. They're not just my own shortcomings. And you do that in a really lovely way. You are telling Chinese history of the last like 75 years or so. I mean, you're not like getting super, super in depth, but in order to make story points in your parents' and your grandparents' lives significant and relevant, you have to then explain some of the particulars. So it's like, you're really feeling what it's like to live in this place and time in a way that I was just like, damn, this is very. It's not what I thought I was getting into with your memoir, and it's very, very, very interesting and beautiful and poignant. No, thank you so much for saying that. That means the world to me. And it was something that I had to, that kind of Western-centric bias is something that I also had to confront, by the way, because, in the first draft of the chapters that I was turning in, and showing my parents and like really excited to show them, like, look, I wrote about like, how hard your life was. I think they were like, this isn't right. And I think I was leading with this kind of, again, very like Western lens on Chinese history, which is that it's all bad. It's all bad. It was so hard. There was so much suffering. And, I think it was objectively a very difficult time for the country. But I think also, my parents, something they said that really kind of resonated with me is that they're like, when we think back to our childhood, we don't think about what we didn't have. We think about what we had. And if you summarize our entire childhood based on what we didn't have, then you're missing the whole picture. You're missing the whole point. And that really, really stuck with me. And I went back and I just rewrote the entire chapter because I was like, I had it so wrong. I had it so wrong. And this isn't their story. This is my very like Canadian or American impression of what their story would be.
Right.
And
then
like
I focused on history or something.
Yeah.
One point like that is you say at some point that your mom would like covet these 5-cent pencils that had erasers on them.
Yeah.
Because the ones that she would typically be able to buy are the 3-cent ones without the erasers. And it's things like that that really bring it to life. They bring anybody's story to life, like a moment in time. It's like that. That's the some of what you're saying is like you can really feel. I think what that does. I mean, this is maybe a bit in the weeds and we can cut this out, but I think having just written our own book and thinking about what it takes to tell a story, I think a moment like that is really nice because there's so much specificity there, and it's like that's so relatable. Every 8-year-old wants, like, whether it's a Tamagotchi or a pencil with an eraser, or
a
you know,
Labubu.
for like the rich kids at Park Slope. Labubu. I just found out what a Labubu is. I thought it was a dog, by the way. Somebody asked me.
Oh,
and
nice.
I was like,
Nice.
I thought it was some kind of a Labrador.
Like Boo Boo the dog was like a whole celebrity for a while, so that makes sense.
But anyway, I think I want to honor what you are saying you were trying to honor in your parents, that you feel a lot of, there's an incredible amount of love and admiration there, in the tellings of their origin story.
Oh, thank you so much, man.
Simu, I'm going to move us to a different topic. Just
Back to
because you're
Shang-Chi.
also here to promote, you're here to promote the Copenhagen Test.
That's
and
right.
We were so
Forgot about
lucky
that.
to receive screeners.
Did you
And,
pass?
It's the
I
whole show.
usually will watch, I'll just watch one to be conversant enough.
Oh my God.
And your performance is incredible. You're so...
There is a whole like a sheet that NBC gives us, like what we can't say. So we're like, okay, so it comes out December 27th then.
Yeah, there's not much.
Enjoy.
But I did want to say, I feel like a lot of this series hinges, at least the pilot, on your micro expressions. And like so much of your delivery is in these micro expressions in a way that like really stood out to me. And so I was just curious, how did you master the art of the micro expression? Like how did you, who you are is a mystery in the show, like whether we can trust you or not, there's so much there. So how did you sort of attack that performance?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, really. I think I just did my best. No, my character, Alexander Hale in the show, he finds out kind of midway through the pilot, and I think I can say this, but if I can't, whatever. What are they going to do?
Your publicist will write us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
We'll
a very
get canceled.
angry note. He realizes halfway through the pilot that his eyes and ears have been hacked by this like nanotechnology that's kind of broadcasting his brainwaves to an enemy. And so everything that he sees and everything that he hears is compromised. And so I think that's why he has to be extremely intentional about where he's looking, where he's not looking, when he, and he has to be very careful with the way he shows emotion and how he speaks. And so I think it's one of those like very cerebral kind of hooks that, I think makes a viewer lean in, hopefully. And yeah, it was a lot of like planning out where I think actors kind of sometimes do this even just in general, but I think knowing that was the premise of the pilot, like I think I just made like so many notes about where his eyes would be looking so that he wouldn't be looking anywhere, where he wanted the audience to not be, or the audience / enemy to not be looking at. And it was just this cool like Inception kind of diary that I was keeping to try to keep track of it all.
Oh, interesting. So you were tangibly keeping track of that in a way.
I was doing my very best. Yeah, I was doing my best.
Sounds so difficult.
But that was the like even for myself and all the cast members and our showrunners, it was constantly like, I mean, the amount of times that we were like, wait, okay, so like they know, so we know that they know right now, right? But then how are we doing it so that do they know that we know that they know or not yet? And it was truly like every day you would be hearing stuff like that.
Oh my gosh. There's a character in the show whose whole job is making predictions. I loved that aspect. Thought it was so interesting. They use a mix of research and intuition. I was curious what your relationship is with intuition and if you've ever had a gut feeling that you've trusted and it turned out to be right.
Yeah, probably the biggest one. I mean, the biggest one was coming out of that career in accounting, and like, I think going all the way back to 2012, I think there was like a very significant part of me that was like, don't press the button, man. Don't do it. Like, don't blow the whole thing up. Maybe you could go to law school. Like, maybe it was just a bad office, and like maybe you can interview for another firm and just get back on the horse. Like, this doesn't have to be the end. We can keep trying. And I think my gut was the thing that was telling me to kind of give this whole thing a go. And then I think a few years later, when I was on Kim's Convenience and starting to come out to LA for the first time, I think I was feeling a lot of resistance from my friends, from my parents, from even like people on the show that were like, "What are you doing, man?" You know? And my dad in particular was very, very adamantly against. He was just like, "You should just be grateful for what you have. Like, this is incredible. Like, don't waste all your money now going to LA. Like, you're gonna need that money." And it was my intuition was like.
So then when you let him retire, you were like,
just so you know. Yeah, no, trust me, there's been a lot of that.
Told you so.
There's been a lot of that. Yeah.
We're going to pivot back to adolescence for our final question.
Yes, please.
If you could go back to your 12-year-old self, 12-year-old Simu, what would you say or do, if anything?
Yeah, I think the advice that I would get, well, first of all, I would have a big existential debate about whether or not, like the butterfly effect was a thing. Like I might just want to kind of keep it,
that's
not interfere and keep everything as it was. But I think if I were to say something to young me, I think I'd probably just say like, you don't have to like stop living. You don't have to have validation from the outside is maybe less important than you think it is. I think it's something that was just ingrained in me so young, and like I struggle with it today, as I'm sure we all do in our own way, but like really I struggled with it really, really badly. And I'm such a people pleaser my whole life, and like wanting to be enough for other people. I think it's that like you don't have to try so hard for everyone else. Try for you. Try for you. I know it's cliche, but yeah, that's what I got.
Thank you so much, Simu.
Yeah, thank you, Simu.
What did you guys
so
say?
nice
Just out of curiosity.
Well, you'll have to read the book. It's I think it's about $29.95 currently hardcover.
When you were just saying like
discount.
I'd have to have an existential debate, I was realizing actually I wouldn't go up. I've said before I would go up to myself and say something, but I think now I would just like secretly. This sounds creepy, but I would just secretly like take a video and just like have that. I just want to watch me at 12. No. I just want to like watch me at 12 and then have that as like, I don't have any like recordings like that.
Yeah.
I can't go back and see myself at that stage.
Actually, that's a great point, Sophie. It's funny because you're bringing up like, it's like a unserious but serious sort of way to, it's true that like you don't want to tamper with it because actually it's like you have to learn
something magical about having to learn.
And that's like the beauty of the struggle, strangely. And but I'm with you, Sophie. I would love to be able to see what that boy was actually like. At 12.
I would probably not step in, and then I would see him talking to a girl and just failing miserably, and I'd be like, "Oh my god! If I watch this for like 1 second more, I will physically die."
You're gonna be choosing between wedding planners. Don't worry,
it's all gonna work out. Yeah.
Oh man, this was fun. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
You can check out Simu Liu in the Copenhagen Test, which premieres on Saturday, December 27th on Peacock, and you can follow him online at Simu Liu. Podcrushed is hosted by Penn, Nava Kavalin, and Sophie Ansari. Our senior producer is David Ansari, and our editing is done by Clips Agency. Special thanks to the folks at Lemonada. And as always, you can listen to Podcrushed ad-free on Amazon Music with your Prime membership. Okay, that's all. Bye.